Good morning, everybody. It's Marianne Bailey with the HIP Senior Podcast. And today I am so excited because I reached out to Dan Salinger on TikTok. Dan is the caregiver of his father. And I wanted to find out from a family member caregiver side of things, what things are really like. We see what they want to show us on TikTok, which is quite a bit. But I kind of wanted to pick Dan's brain about this. So Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Well, good morning, Marianne. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And here I am to do the best I can to fill in all the blanks and answer whatever questions you have.
So your father, Ed, correct?
Hang on one second. This is the typical interruption. I'm on a podcast. What can I do for you? Yeah, I know. I get something interesting to hear as soon as we're off, Marianne, but that's what we get in reality. Caregiving,
Life.
you never going to pop up.
That's life. That's all good. So your father's name is Ed, correct?
Correct.
And he is 90 years old?
He is 90 and he will turn 91 in March, the end of March. So he's real close to that 91st birthday.
Oh, wait a minute. March what?
23rd.
No, wait, that's my birthday.
Well, you share your birthday with my dad.
I'm birthday buddies with your dad. How awesome is that?
Well, he's 1932. I have a feeling you were sometime after that, but
1970.
Well, there you go. I mean, I was just a couple years before you, so you look great for 1970. Let me tell you, you do not look as old. My God. All right.
That's sweet of you. Thank you. My daughter's birthday was Saturday. She shares her birthday with my dad. She was born on his 60th birthday. So she continues to be his birthday gift every year. I give you your only grandchild.
That is awesome. And what a great coincidence. And we just had the same blessing. My youngest brother, Josh, just had a baby, and that baby shares a birthday with my sister, Carrie. So we just experienced that this weekend. So shared birthdays are great. And, it reduces on, the amount of cake you have to eat. You just, you share.
That could be good or bad.
It's good and bad, but depending on.
For us trying to lose weight, but it's a good excuse to eat cake. So.
Right. And I'm with you. It's a double-edged sword, but yeah, we'll take whatever we get.
I tried to get a birthday cake for my daughter. She says, I don't like cake. And I'm like, since when and whose daughter are you?
Well, that's, I like cake and I'm the parent and I'm going to buy it. And since you don't like it, I'm going to buy the kind of cake that I like to eat. So
there you go. My mom used to always say, well, it's my birthday too. I gave birth to you. And I'm just like, I never quite understood that until I was the one in those shoes. So I messaged her like 8:00 that night. I'm like 25 years ago today at this time, I was in major pain because of you. Just be aware.
Yes. And then, probably for some time thereafter, there was a little bit of work as well. But, you'll get the opportunity, Marianne, to return the favor and take care of your mom when that time comes, right?
Actually, I don't know about that. I don't know. She lives in Florida, and I'm not keen on moving back to Florida anytime soon. I grew up in Florida. And my brother lives 2 or 3 doors down from her. And so I'm not sure, like, if my father passed away, like if my mom would move up here, or if my brother would take on the burden, or, I don't know. I might have to fly down there every couple months or so and hang out with her for a while. I don't know how that's going to work. So we'll just have to see from day to day what's necessary. And I'm guessing that that's what you do as well. Like every day, I was listening the other day and you were saying nothing's necessarily planned on a day. You just never know what kind of mood Ed's going to wake up in, right?
Everything that you've just said from the beginning, life takes you down a road that you don't know where it's going to take you. And who knows what your situation will be like when you're faced with those circumstances. Life is so just likes to throw curveballs at you, and it's tough to predict tomorrow, much less next week. But jumping forward, my dad is, when you're taking care of someone with advanced dementia, you really never know what you're going to get every single day. Some days he may wake up, I'm going to move because there's noise over there. Some days you may get him in really good spirits. You may have a smile on his face. when he gets up in the morning, and he may crack a joke in the morning, or, hey, what are you doing up? Some days he's up, his hair's up and in a crazy mess, and where am I? And occasionally, sometimes if it's really bad, he won't really even remember how we're related. I mean, he's never not recognized me, but the bottom line is I never know what I'm going to get every morning. And
No, take
so
that back. I've seen a video where he did not. He thought you were somebody else.
that happens. It's
Didn't
not
see
common, but it does happen. So every morning, I'm sitting in my chair right now. I don't know if you can see it, but I moved to my chair where I sit every morning, and I look at that door right there. And when I have him here, typically it's sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock. He'll come on, his face will come wandering in, and I look up, and I don't know what I'm going to see or how he's going to be, if I'm going to have to jump up and deal with him, or if he's just going to be like, hey, I'm just going to the bathroom, I'm going back to bed for a while. I don't know what's coming. So I always look with anticipation that door when he shows up, and I'm happy when he's in a good way. And sometimes I have to put down whatever I'm doing and stand up and give him what's called the morning fill-in, which means, Dad, let me explain to you. You've got memory loss. That's why you're confused. You live with your kids. That's why you're here. This is my house. You live right here. You have, your health is fine. You're fine. You have plenty of money. You don't have to worry about money. You live with your kids. Would you like to get some breakfast, or do you have any questions? And some days he's like, oh, all right, well, that's all right. Some days are we in Canada? Or are we in where are we? And my dad, we're in Northern California. Oh, okay. So you really never know what you're going to get when you're dealing with someone with advanced dementia. You kind of take it as it goes.
So when did you start noticing changes in your father? Like, when did you start realizing this is something we're really going to have to start addressing?
Excellent question. So that there's two parts to that question. When did I first start noticing symptoms? A long time ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago. At the beginning, you start noticing strange things like, my dad used to come over here every day. We used to live about 40 minutes away. He used to drive down and spend the afternoons here. All of his kids were down here. So, or at least three of his kids, the local kids, were down here. So he'd come down and have lunch with his kids and spend time with whoever was available every single day. And so a lot of times he'd end up at my house. There was a room in my house that he would go and start some movie room with comfortable chairs, and he'd go in and take a nap every single afternoon, sometimes for 15 minutes, sometimes for 2-3 hours, depending on what was going on. This is back 8-9 years ago. And then one day he's walking in, and he walks over to the room, he looks in, he says, is this new? Did you, and it was like out of the blue. And it was a true, punch in the gut, because you're not expecting that. And then something so absolutely, out there, that you just so unexpected. And, not a little thing, like, not, hey, Adam, Mark, Dave, you expect the little things, confusing your name, or where did I put my wallet? No, is this room new? That's a room he'd been in forever. And then maybe, a few months later, you chalk that up. A few months, maybe 6 months later, a year later, he's walking around with a check in his wallet, and for a larger amount of money. My dad never walks around with 10-15 bucks in his wallet. He has his whole life. Never felt the need to carry money. And I see he's got a check in his wallet that was dated maybe a month. He'd gone in and closed out some bank account and was walking around with a cashier's check in his wallet for 2 months, just totally out of character. Things like that are the dead giveaway that you've got a problem. And then, then it would slowly progress. Maybe I'd be tracking him as he is driving in his car, and see, he's turned the wrong way on a main street. He's now traveling the opposite direction from his house. I have to call him, Dad, where are you going? And then you kind of see the car stop and then turn around. You're just thinking to yourself, oh my God. And then it slowly progresses more. Fast forward, 5 years, we had moved him closer, because obviously he couldn't make that drive. We moved him into our city, and he lived there for a good 5 years. He was close enough that my brother or I would go see him every single day at lunch, keep him until dinner, and then take him back to his house. And he was able to throw a healthy choice in the microwave and eat a salad and get along. And then lo and behold, one day he's kind of like, he's rubbing his shoulders. He doesn't know what happened. We're looking at it, exploring. We see a bruise on the same side on the hip. Dad, what happened? I don't know. And that was the last straw that day. Out of the blue, unexpectedly, I didn't wake up that morning thinking, wow, everything, my life is going to change today.
Right.
But it did. That was the day we realized he can't live alone one more day, because what if he fell and he couldn't get up? We may not have discovered for 12 hours, and it was just at that point we had to make the decision, what are we going to do? And there's no book of answers, and there's not like a magical family meeting, for everyone all around the country. Let's get together on a Zoom and decide what we're going to do with Dad, and let's weigh this option against that option and no, that's not the way it works. You got him, and it's like, Mark, what are we going to do? Well, the only option we had at that point was for him to move into Mark's house. And it was my brother, Mark. And that's what we did. And so we moved him in that day, and everything changed. Of course, I had to, step up and contribute to that, my time and energy to that. And then about 6 months later, when Mark was just pulling his hair out, dealing with my dad on a 24/7 basis, he needed a vacation. He went to my sister's house in Vermont. She was living across the country at the time. She's now back, thankfully, and a big help. But he went there for a week, and I had my dad for a week. And I'm here with my wife, and I've got kids here, a bigger house to deal with. And having him for that 1 week, I realized that there's just no way that Mark can handle him by himself. It's just not going to happen. Mark is going to end up, in worse shape than my dad. So we had to make a decision again. Does he go into a home? And I had a conversation with my wife and asked her if it would be okay if we brought him in to stay with us halftime. And she agreed, maybe reluctantly, but agreed. And the rest is history.
Do what you have to do, right?
We brought him in, and it was damn hard, especially at first. Damn hard. I mean, it's long before TikTok, right? He's living in the house, and we didn't have any tricks of the trade. I didn't know how to deal with them. And it's your father. It's not really a patient. So the way you approach things with them is a lot different than you might a patient or a caregiver. Like, Dad, you have to take a shower. I'm not taking a shower. I took a shower this morning. A caregiver that just detached is going to be able to use the tricks and manipulate or redirect him or whatever it is they've learned in their career in order to get done what they've got to get done. But as a son, it's a totally different ballgame. I've got a history of interaction with this man dating back my entire existence, right? And you have patterns that you fall into, patterns of communication. And we were a louder family that, put things out there, and we were verbal. We still are verbal. If you can watch from our TikToks, we're not quiet. And there's a lot of talking going on. So at first, I'm trying to reason with him and use logic and explain things to him. Well, that doesn't work so well with someone with dementia. So, you break down to some of your old, interactive patterns. Dad, you're taking a damn shower, that, and then he falls into his old patterns. And it was very difficult at first. And I've learned now how to get around that. And I do use my son, my relationship with him to my benefit. For instance, now with the shower, I don't argue with him or try and convince him of anything. My go-to, and it works almost 100% of the time, is, Dad, listen, I have to give you a shower, and your son, can't relax. I can't enjoy myself. I can't relax until you get this done. Will you do it for me? And almost 100% of the time, all right, I'll do it for you, but I don't need one. I'm just doing it for you. And lo and behold, instead of a half an hour argument, he takes a shower, and 10 minutes later we're done, and he's happy. So it's quite different. And being the son than just someone who comes in and takes care of him for 8 hours or 10 hours.
So back up a little bit. So you and Mark unilaterally decided, okay, we're going to step up. We're going to do this. What was the reaction from your other siblings at the point? Because there's 5 of you. Am I right? 5?
I have 5 siblings. So,
okay. So there's 6 total.
My oldest brother, who's got 10 years older than me, to my youngest brother, my dad had in his 50s, who's about 38 or 39 years old now. So a wide range, and obviously at different stages of their lives. My younger brother has small children, now infant.
Right.
He's not going to be able to, it's just not practical for him
Yeah.
to deal with it. So he's dealing with his own issues. My oldest brother is further away. He's a few hours away. I have another brother who's a few hours away. They're watching, but not as connected, going, they're going on with their lives like you would expect. So it really fell on Mark and I. The other siblings were incredibly supportive and probably saying, it's okay. If you want to put them in a home, we'll, whatever you want to do. And
Did
they've
they
been,
feel guilt at all? Do they ever feel guilt? Like we feel really bad that we are far away or we have so much other stuff that we can't help you with this? Do they see on
I
your
think,
TikToks like, I wish I could help? Or are they relieved? I mean, honestly.
I think, sure, right. Sure. They back, but we have to be practical. Sure, I'm through there thinking, gosh, he's doing a lot, but they're caught up in their own lives.
Right.
10 years ago, I couldn't have done this. I would have had to go about my own life and watch from afar, just like they are. So, my siblings, especially, they do what they can. They're obviously they're not in a position to do what Mark and I are doing. Um, Maybe they look and they know that we have the option not to do it. They know that it's our choice. So, but yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of guilt in there. My sister, she spends a lot of time with my mom. So she helps out that way. It's just Mark and I are specifically or especially equipped to deal with my dad and his issues, I think. And, we have the temperament right now to deal with it. My dad's not easy, not easy, but the rest of my siblings kick in and they help whenever they can. There's really thankfully, no animosity or anything going on between the siblings. We get together a lot. We talk on the phone all the time. So all for us, it's worked out fairly well. And no, there's not, any outward jealousy or
Right.
anything, like that.
So you're an attorney. You're still
Yeah.
practicing, correct?
Yeah. I practice about half time,
Okay.
not
So,
because of that. I started winding that down after I had a heart attack in 2019 and I had to
oh, wow.
reduce the stress in my life. And that led to a great impact on my workload, which enables me to do what I'm doing right now. So it kind of all worked out in a way that, that made this possible.
Did it really though? Did it? Because think about it. I mean, you took on less work, but now you've got your father and all of this going on. I mean, do you really feel less stressed? Is it something? I mean,
It's a
luckily you have Mark as a backup. You've got your wife. Obviously, you couldn't do half of what you do without her because I know like if you go to work, she's there and stuff like that. But I mean, just honestly, from a viewpoint, are you less stressed?
It is a very different kind of stress dealing with my dad. My dad is an immediate stress. He comes to the
Yeah.
door, I'm hungry, or, where's my brother? I have to deal with that on an immediate basis. And in that moment, it's sure stressful. Work's a very different kind of stress, especially what I do. Criminal law. I carry things around with me in my head all day long from work, and they can stay with me, long after when I lay my head down to bed. The stress with my dad, if I hear him get up, I have to listen to make sure he goes back to bed and not out to the kitchen.
It's
But
exactly like having a child.
it is very similar, like having a child, just a more complex child. But with work, the stress is very different and it lingers. And there is a payoff with my dad's, an immediate payoff with him. Whatever task that I'm dealing with that might be stressful, if I can bring some kind of conclusion to that or ease my dad's mind, there's an immediate relief right there. That episode's over and I can relax. Work, not so much. If I have a hearing in 3 weeks and somebody's gonna is facing anywhere from 2 to 6 years in jail, depending on what I say in that hearing, that stress stays with you. At least for me, it stays with me. So it's a different kind of stress. I do not believe that the stress I undergo with my dad is nearly as debilitating as other kinds of stress, like work stress, relationship stress. Those things that kind of linger with you are very different than what I experienced with my dad.
Right. Have you ever seen Tipa Snow on TikTok?
Tipa Snow's excellent. I mean,
Yeah.
for people that want to learn the tricks of the trade, there's also another Blight Care on TikTok. These people are professional. They are awesome. They have all the tricks that work along a broad range. Dementia is very different between people all across the spectrum,
Right.
right? And they have expertise in the broad the broad thing of dementia, whether it be Alzheimer's, Lewy body, vascular. I mean, they know the differences. They know the tricks. They are professionals at what they do. I consider myself an expert in my dad's little narrow piece of whatever he's got. That's what I've become an expert in, and I can deal with my dad because I have a history and a past. And I think other people can learn from that. Just maybe the patience and the perseverance of just going on and falling off the bike and getting back up. But clearly, we're nothing like Teepa Snow, who is really the gold standard of if you want to learn, that's where you go. We're more of more of maybe what it's like taking care of your own parents, or a little bit of
Right.
I call it family care, or I don't really consider myself a caregiver, Marion. I just taking care of my dad. That's the way I would describe it. Caregiver, we get that title with TikTok, but I mean, before TikTok, I don't think I ever referred to myself as a caregiver.
Which is
Just
life.
my dad.
Have you thought about what happens after your father passes away? Like how quiet your house is going to be, and how different. I mean, because obviously you won't just go back to the way your life was before, because 10, 20 years later, however much longer your father has definitely changed your way of life now. At some point, do you think like, I just won't know what to do with myself?
It's kind of the same, struggle that we're dealing with our kids moving out, right? We went from an extremely busy family unit, driving kids to
Mm.
soccer, so busy, you can never sit down at the dinner table. Half the time, the family's off. Someone's driving someone to a soccer tournament somewhere. Someone's off at a football game or a wrestling match. It's the same kind of thing. We were dealing with that right when my dad popped in, so he has kind of alleviated that. So probably there'll be some kind of let
Empty nest
down when
syndrome.
on of like there's what's left in life. And I've never had to deal with the loss of either parent, so that sadness and that grief, I do not look forward to the day that losing either my mom or my dad,
Sure.
any sibling, anything like that. But I don't have time to give it any thought. I mean, maybe I'll jump back into work more. I don't really know what I will do when he passes. We know we've also built up a social media platform. Maybe we can use that for some kind of good. I don't know what the future brings. I just know that it's very different than it would have been had I never taken my dad on.
Tell me about TikTok a little bit more. I mean, I know you have 1.2 million followers. I am nowhere anywhere near you. I have like 4,000. So I'm curious as to how you guys got involved with TikTok, as far as like including your father on that. Like, one day you woke up, you heard about TikTok, and you're like, hey, let's put dad on this, or did it evolve into that? And how big of a part, obviously, in your life does that play?
Well, that's great question. And I will tell you that TikTok for me started long before my dad moved in. It started during COVID when I came, finished my heart attack year. That was 2019. Heart attack was early in the year. I was walking every day, walking up to 20 miles, and then kind of was going to try
Wow.
and get back into life the next year. Yeah, I changed my lifestyle, exercise. I mean, I did not want to go back to that point, in addition to reducing my work stress. And then I was going to kind of move back in 2020, and lo and behold, we get COVID. And of course, having a heart attack, and my secretary also is recently had a heart attack, and she has other, COVID morbidities, or COVID issues. So we took COVID extremely seriously. I did, and also she's not my secretary does not like, even when vaccines came out, she's an anti-vaxxer. So I had to maintain a very vigilant um, COVID protocol, just to protect myself and protect her, my son, who is so. COVID kind of took over 2020, and so because I was not going to expose my secretary, she stayed in the office. We kept the office open. Just basically, she was just in there alone, doing pretty much nothing for many months while everything shut down. And I was doing TikTok during this period from my house, and putting my poems on there. And I really started just to chronicle my life. And if you look way back at the very first postings, you can see they're mostly me filming the animals. They're filming, a couple poems. We're out in the backyard during the COVID break. I'm filming my wife doing yard work and throwing balls and, just having fun with the videos. And then a few months into 2020, I think my dad, we picked him up like in April, May, something in that neighborhood. And when he moved in, he just became part of my TikTok. So you'd see some of them would include my dad. There's still this very same kind of, videos, just whatever I was doing, it chronicled my family during that period. And then one day, lo and behold, I took a TikTok. My dad was maybe 6 months into it. We had not blown up yet. I might have had like followers similar to yours at that point, 4,000 or 5,000 people. And that was pretty much our TikTok existence. And then came the one video, and it was my dad, trying to drive away in my car. He had wrong key. He was in a different car with a key that didn't work, but he's in there in the driver's seat. And I walk out and I lose it in the video, very, very frustrating situation. When he's going to drive away, it's extremely dangerous. And we had a lot of history with the car that I won't bore you with, but let me just tell you, the car was the hardest part. And he would take the car out until we finally got rid of it. He would find the car, take it out and drive it with no license, no insurance, advanced dementia, didn't know where he's going. We'd have, be driving around looking for him, have the police looking for him. It was a nightmare. So when I flip out in that video, it went viral. People like that on TikTok. They like the controversy and I gave it to him, with everything you could want, full plate of controversy. And I'm out there, and that blew that channel up a bit, and we started to get more and more people, and the comments went crazy, and and I posted a video about that, explaining it, and a couple more videos of my dad, and he just kept gaining in popularity. And every time I'd put a video of my dad up, it would go viral. So he slowly became more and more of my TikTok. You give people what they want, right? And he slowly became more and more of my TikTok channel, and for whatever reason, he caught on. I mean, today I have 1.2 million followers. I don't get recognized often walking around, Safeway. But if I'm walking around with my dad, it's my dad has some kind of appeal to people that none of us really even understand to this day. But for whatever reason, he's the one who blew up that channel. And I've just been along for the ride, and trying to be the editor and poster. I became more of a cameraman than a creator. And then I tried to slowly integrate myself back into it. And now the channel is basically about my interactions with my dad and the rest of my family. Still about, he's about 75% of the postings today.
You become Ed's co-anchor.
Yeah, well, he's the star. I'm the, whatever. I'm behind the scenes. I'm the enabler. I'm the, whatever. Abbott, I don't know which one it was, but I'm the straight guy, and he's the star. So
how much of that do you think he actually understands, like how big of an impact he's making on people's lives, of giving people the, just the courage to take on their family members when they're in crisis like this, and when they need their families, or just even, when people just need a smile? How much of TikTok do you think he really understands?
My dad does not understand TikTok. He knows that he's
On
being
video.
he knows he's going out to people, and he sees our Zoom every day. We have a Zoom here with people on. I mean, he knows. Yeah. He's become more familiar, even with his disease, with the idea of people being there on a camera or on an iPad or an Apple Pad, that he's being broadcast out. And if you notice in many of the videos, he can see himself in the phone if I'm showing it to him, just like I can see myself right now. Right. And my dad knows that he's being videotaped. He just doesn't understand TikTok or Facebook, but he knows that he's going out to family and strangers. And if you'll notice, my dad is quite the ham on camera often. The videos where he's in good spirits, he knows he's being photographed, and he is, to an extent, performing. when he knows that he's on camera. Whatever that means to him, I don't know what he's thinking in his head, but he knows he's going out to somewhere and he gets a smile on his face, and I know he enjoys it. And there's some of the TikToks where, I'm putting him on. This is what it's like. This is difficult in the morning. Obviously, those instances, he has no idea what's going on. He's barely trying to, figure out where he is, what country he's in, much less worry about TikTok. But the fun ones where he's in great spirits, TikToks I most enjoy are the ones where he's hamming it up.
The ones that break my heart the most is when he's asking about his brother, because I just can't imagine. I mean, I have a brother that passed away at the age of 45. And sometimes I have dreams about him, and I wake up and I'm a little disoriented when I wake up, and I'm like, wait, was I dreaming? Is Paul still alive? Is he dead? I have to kind of focus on, where am I at with that? And I can't reach out to my mom because that would break her heart. Right. So I can relate to him on that level, as far as, forgetting that your sibling has passed away. And it seems to me like every time he asks about his brother and he asks you and you're like, no, he passed away, that he just relives him passing away every single time. And it has to be a heartbreak each and every time.
Okay.
We only see small snippets of that. So I'm guessing that afterwards that this continues on in times that we don't see.
First of all, Marianne, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
How difficult, and what a tragedy to be to someone so young. And yes, that is without question the single most difficult part of dealing with my dad, is dealing with that question, because you certainly, and we deal with that question probably more than anything else. I have my theories why, but how we deal with that is the subject of people like to watch it. Why do you lie? Why don't you lie to him? Say he's on vacation, he's on a date, or what have you. And some people just tell him the truth. There's different theories on what to do. My theory is always just to ease his mind however I can. Truth, lie, I don't care, as long as he okay, and he relaxes and he can go away. That's always my objective. However I get there. And by the way, we've tried every single answer over the thousands of times he's asked that question, and we kind of default back to whatever has worked in the past. And we just in my dad's situation, it's very difficult to be truthful with him, because or to lie to him. Excuse me. Very difficult for us to lie to him and say he's on vacation, what have you, because he's very persistent. I want his number. I want to call him out now, and he won't stop. And even if we can push him off for 2 minutes, he comes right back. Where's my brother Bill? And once we tell him, Dad, he's passed, that somehow seems to get him beyond it. And I have a theory. My dad always, he's always seems to be concerned with Mark, Josh, and Uncle Bill. And my theory is Josh is his youngest. So, I think he thinks that he's still young, doesn't really realize that he's, has a great job and has a family, and, lives in a nice house with a big yard, big 5 acres. He's doing fine. My dad doesn't realize that. Mark was in a mudslide when he was like 18 or 19 years old, a long time ago, but he was within an inch of his life. And my dad had to go through dealing with, his recovery. And thank God he recovered 100%, other than some scars. But I mean, he was literally carried by mud for 5 miles from the Grapevine on Highway 5 in California, and just lucky to be alive. So I think my dad has that, and he's always, kind of looked out for Mark. And then I think he knows in the end that his brother passed, because he has a sister that's alive that he doesn't bring up all the time. And it's those 3 people that are the most consistently brought up in my dad's life. And I think it's because at some point he had this gigantic worry about those people. And that's why those names keep coming up. So when my dad comes and he's asking for Uncle Bill, I think he knows that something's wrong with him. So when we try and push him off and say, Dad, he's on vacation, he's wherever, he's with his kids, he's at dinner, he's very persistent because he knows something's wrong and he wants to find out. And with Mark, it's the same thing. Dad, I talked to him 5 minutes ago. Well, I didn't. I want to make sure he has something to eat. Those 3 people, and that's my theory, is because those people he's worried about so much in his life. And, my oldest brother is a doctor. he's not so much worried about him. My sister, who married a very successful lawyer, he's not so much worried about her. I'm a lawyer in his head, so he's not so much worried about me. That's my theory anyway. And again,
That makes sense.
I believe I'm the expert on my dad. Not I can't explain to anybody else's why they would, but for my dad, that's my theory.
Well, I think tragedy, whether it's like you said, the youngest child and whatever, not necessarily tragedy, but I mean, let's just say for, shits and giggles, let's tragedy, imprints on our brains. And it's hard to get past that sometimes. I think that's why people don't recover from deaths of their spouses or their siblings. Sometimes parents never really recover from the death of a child, stuff like that. That all imprints on us, and different than joy and happiness. I think joy and happiness is short lived and we move on. That's why people, that's why we gravitate towards the news of tragedies, of things going on in the world that are horrible, instead of dwelling on the good stuff.
Yeah.
And, the good
Negative
stuff brings some
more powerful than
happiness,
positive.
but
Yeah, I agree. The negative is, and it works in politics. The negative message used to stronger than the positive message, and I think it's because it's emotion. It's rooted in a really strong emotion, and I think my dad definitely feels it. And worry. For my youngest brother, I think it's more worry. He thinks he's a young person and in need of help. So, and my dad is also a fixer. He's also has always been the
that's an
person.
Aries. That's an Aries March 23rd thing.
There you go. See, you're probably a fixer too.
I am.
He always wants to be there to help if somebody needs help. So all those things together, and that's his focus. That's my theory on my dad and Bill. But to the broader question, your original question, it's incredibly difficult to watch him just have to address the death of his brother every day. It's very tough, for sure.
Dan and I were having such a great conversation that this conversation ran longer than our normal podcast does. So we are splitting this up into two parts. So please come back for part two and hear what else Dan has to say about being a caretaker to his 90-year-old father, Dr. Ed Salinger. Until then, have a great day.